If you're like most businesses, you're using email to communicate with your clients, sometimes sending out dozens, maybe hundreds daily. But how do you know if your emails are being delivered into your client's inbox? Email service providers are always changing their deliverability standards, meaning there's always a possibility that a big chunk of the marketing emails you're sending are going directly to your client's spam or junk folders. A proven way to reduce the likelihood of your emails landing in your client's spam folders is to ensure that your email reputation is solid. Your business's email reputation is like a credit score. The higher your score, the better it is for your bottom line. Something you can do today to boost your email reputation and reduce the likelihood that your email will show up in your client's spam folders is to make sure that the clients you're emailing are engaged clients. An engaged client is someone who has indicated they're interested in what you have to say. There are lots of ways a client can engage: by opening an email, clicking on a link, purchasing your product, or filling out a web form. They signal that it's okay to communicate with them. The longer it's been since a client last engaged with you, the more likely that client is no longer engaged and may mark your email as spam. Review your list and remove clients that opted out. If you continue to market people who don't want to hear from you, your email reputation will suffer, which will impact your ability to reach those clients that do want to hear from you. The content you're sending is one of the most important factors in maintaining a high email deliverability score and determining if your emails make it in your inbox or land in a spam folder. There are 5 things to keep in mind when writing an email. First, do not send emails from a public domain like gmail.com, msn.com, yahoo.com, and others. Use your business domain in the from address. Next, match the subject line with the body copy in the email. If the subject line makes a promising offer and it's nowhere in the email, you lose that client's trust and you might get dinged by your email service provider. You don't want to get dinged. They both need to match. Third, use your company branding in the email. It can be jarring when people see an email that doesn't follow your company style. It's also something email service providers will ding you for. Fourth, follow the 80-20 rule. 80% text, 20% image. Avoid creating emails that have 3 lines of text and a giant image. Lastly, make the unsubscribe link easy to find. An important factor in determining whether an email that you send to a client goes to their inbox or to the spam folder is the reputation of your business domain. Your domain reputation is one way email service providers decide whether or not they will deliver your email message to your subscribers. It's a good idea to check your domain regularly to make sure your domain is in good standing with lookup tools. There are many tools that you can use to check your domain. MX Lookup is a good place to start. If you find you're blacklisted, you'll want to get more information about what you can do to become delisted or taken off a blacklist. Like we said before, your business's email reputation is like a credit score. To keep your score high, it's essential you respect the wishes of those who receive your emails. If you don't, recipients may mark your message as spam. To see your complaints, contact your email service provider. Additionally, when someone unsubscribes, it's a great idea to use a survey asking why. Taken in total, these comments are a great indicator of where you can improve your email practices. Are they saying that they never signed up for your mail or that they already unsubscribed from your list? It might be an indication that you need to review your list. Are they saying that you send too much or too often? It might be time to look at the content of your emails and how frequently you send them. Make sure that you periodically review your complaints and adjust your email practices accordingly. Visit our blog for more ways to protect your email reputation.
Hey everyone, hello and welcome to this, the final episode in the current mini-series that we've been running, the Facebook Lives, YouTube Lives, all about email deliverability. My name is Adrian Savage. I'm the founder of the Deliverability Lab and I run a service called emailhealthcheck.net that I'll be talking about today. In today's show, we are talking about why email engagement equals email health, all the essentials about email engagement. Lots and lots of things to cover today. If you've watched some of the previous episodes, then we might be recapping some of those. There's lots of new material as well today. We are here to help you, myself and Evan Samurin and Jordan Hatch. I'll get the guys to introduce themselves in a second. And we're here to help you really nail down your deliverability with Infusionsoft and Keap. Lots of great content here. Thank you so much for joining. If you're on the live stream, you are welcome to type some questions into the comments box below the video where you're watching, and we'll do our best to answer any of those. So my name, as I said, Adrian Savage. I have been in the IT industry as a geek for the last 38 years or something like that, because I started when I was about this big. I've been doing Infusionsoft for the last 9 years or so. I'm the odd man out here because, unlike Evan and Jordan, I have never worked for Infusionsoft or Keap. But I became a partner back about eight years ago. Jordan taught me all his tricks back then when he was working for Infusionsoft. And I've spent the last 5 years or so working primarily on email deliverability, and that is now all that I do. Bit of private consulting, but the main focus that I've got is on tools and reports and software that will help you as Infusionsoft and Keap users maximize your email deliverability. So quickly hand over to my amazing co-presenters and let them introduce themselves as well. So we'll start with Evan, if you just want to say hi.
Hi. No, just kidding. There's more than that. Hi, I'm Evan Samron. Adrian, thank you so much. You guys are in for it today. You're going to hear a lot of great content and see some really cool tools that's going to help you. But my name is Evan Samron. Hopefully you know who I am by this point in time. I've been in the Infusionsoft ecosystem almost 10 years now. Sorry, the Keap in ecosystem now, which started off as Infusionsoft for, almost 10 years now. Used to work for Infusionsoft when it was Infusionsoft for about 5.5 years. And really today, my sole focus in life is email deliverability. And unlike Adrian and Jordan, who have more tools around helping identify with deliverability, I really get my hands in the weeds and work with clients one-to-one on their email deliverability, solving problems, and that joyous and sometimes hard path to the inbox. So, like Adrian said, if you've got questions, fill them out below, and I'm going to hand this over to Jordan real quick.
Hey everybody, I'm Jordan Hatch. I'm the owner of Full Stack Marketing and listcleaner.io. It's been a fun 4-day thing that we've been doing. But so I'd recommend, if you haven't watched the other 3 videos that we've done, go back and watch those. We did go over a little bit, and we'll probably go over a little bit today, just based on our track record. But I'm excited to be here today, and I would just I'm a little under the weather, so I might just sit back and be quiet most of the time. But if I have something that's, I know, right? But yeah, if I have anything to add, I'll jump in and let you know. So.
Cool, perfect. Thank you very much, Jordan. So the first thing we are going to talk about today is answer the most, the question that's on a lot of people's minds. Why is engagement so important? We didn't talk about engagement 5 years ago, 8 years ago. Now everyone is talking about this. And as you've already seen in the last few sessions that we've run, then there is a lot of really important things you've got to bear in mind to maximize your deliverability. Now I'm going to stick my neck out here, and we can have a little debate with Evan maybe. But in my opinion, then, although the other areas are important, engagement is massively important, because as time has gone on, then it is probably the one area that the big email providers are looking more at than ever before. I'll share an example that I spotted on my own phone the other day. I use the Gmail app on my iPhone, and I opened it up, and above all the email messages, there was a little message from Gmail themselves in there saying, you haven't opened any emails from this particular sender for the last month. Do you want to unsubscribe? So that's just another bit of proof on top of everything else that we already know that, the big email providers are, they're really, really taking engagement very seriously at the moment. Now, we'll talk about what that is in a minute, but I'm just going to go into a bit more detail about why it's important first. And one of the biggest things here is that a typical email list will have maybe half, maybe even as much as 3/4 of the audience will be on free email platforms like Gmail and like Hotmail, maybe Yahoo. And the thing to bear in mind with these is they are all advertising driven. So these companies make their dollars by actually displaying emails and displaying adverts next to those emails. So what that means is that they really want to reward the senders that are sending emails out that people will open, because that means that Google, Microsoft, Yahoo can put more adverts in front of people. So they'll reward people that send emails that get opened, and they're going to look less kindly on the people that are sending emails that don't get opened. So, let's be very clear on this, because the big email providers are not being altruistic. They are serving their own needs. They're collecting the data, they're getting the advertising revenue. Sure, there are paid for email services that people use as well, but that's still in the minority. If you go back 10 years, 20 years, then you had to pay for your own internet connection, you paid for your email, but it's very different now. So what that means is that, the big email providers, so we're talking about Google, we're talking about Microsoft, we're talking about Yahoo and AOL, then they are looking massively at how well you are managing your engagement. Anything to add to that, Evan and Jordan?
No, I think that's a big thing. And again, why is engagement important? Not only are Google and Yahoo looking at advertising, but like I said yesterday, if you look at what Google's job is. Their job with Gmail is to provide a quality inbox experience. And a quality inbox experience is a spam-free experience with emails that you want to receive. And the way they build what you want to receive is by how you interact with those. So if people are interacting with your messages, they're going to get better placement. If they don't, they get worse placement. Yep. And then the algorithms take the actions of the mass of all of your lists. And if the majority of people aren't liking your emails, they're going to spot a trend, and they're going to apply that trend to new subscribers coming in. And that's what you got to look at. The engagement of your existing list impacts the deliverability and placement of new subscribers coming in.
Perfect.
Yeah, I've got one thing on it, or actually two things I want to add to that. If you think about what Evan just said, I 100% agree with what Evan just said. But the reason that you should care about this stuff isn't because of what Evan just said. The reason that you should care about this stuff is because your clients' desires, what they want, is aligned with what the ESPs want, right? ESP is email service provider. Google's or Gmail's product team, their goal is to give their clients the thing that they want. Right? So the reason that you should care about email engagement is not just because Gmail wants it. It's because your clients want it. Your clients only want to get the stuff that they want to get. They don't want to get blown up, right? Think about 10 years ago, everybody was doing direct mail, but it was kind of on the decline, right? Because everybody's getting a crap ton of junk mail every day, right? I don't get as much junk mail as I used to. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not yourselves, but I don't get as much as I want. But you know what? I do get a crap ton of emails. Like if you looked at my Gmail account right now, I've got 15,000 unread emails, right? And that number just goes up every day, right? Yeah. And so that's the primary reason why you should care, is because it's what your clients want. It's not necessarily just what Gmail wants or Yahoo or whomever.
Totally. So I think it's fair to say, Jordan, you've got 15,000 unread mails in your inbox, but if an email comes in from someone that you want to hear from, you're still going to open that mail, right?
Absolutely.
So our job as marketers and as people using email to communicate is that we should be only communicating with the people that want to hear from us. What's the point of wasting time, resources, money, sending emails to people that are never going to open them? Because we're just wasting everyone's time and we're cluttering up email boxes. And it's like you say, we want to serve the people that want to hear from us. We want to give them the right stuff. There's no point wasting lots of time putting useless communications out there that people aren't going to look at. So if we look on, we move on and start looking at, what actually is engagement? And Jordan covered this really well the other day, and we'll just recap that now, because it's actually, you can measure it. Well, there's two different ways of measuring it. There's the way that you will measure it if you're using something like Infusionsoft, and there's the way that the email inbox providers will measure it as well. So if you're using Gmail, something like that. So we'll start with Infusionsoft and Keap, because that's nice and simple, because there's only a few ways that you can you can see what the engagement is. So the first thing, the most obvious one, if someone is opting into your list for the first time, they're going to fill out a web form. And if they fill out a web form, that's a pretty strong demonstration of engagement, because they're basically raising their hand and say, hey, I want your stuff. I want to hear from you. So filling out a web form is a really strong sign of engagement. And then once they fill out a web form, normally you're going to send them an email. And if someone opens that email, then again, that is a very good sign of engagement. They're showing that they actually want to find out more about your message. And then the only other way that Infusionsoft can detect engagement is if someone clicks on one or more of the links in that email. So those are the three main ways. Have I missed anything, guys? No, that's good. Deathly silence. That's good. Sometimes I worry that I might forget something. So from Infusionsoft's side and from Keap's point of view, then those are the signs and the indicators that you can see of engagement. Now, once we move over to, say, Gmail or Hotmail or whichever other email provider that you might be using, then it starts to get a little bit broader, because there are various ways there that they will observe. And not only can they see signs of engagement, obviously they can also see signs of disengagement or unengagement. So if we start with the most extreme indicator of a lack of engagement, that's if someone actually reports an email for spam. You can't get pretty much more disengaged than that, I guess. But equally, if someone just leaves the email in the inbox or deletes it without reading it, or there's lots of other different signs where they're just demonstrating by their lack of action that they're not interested in the content that's been sent out. And then on the positive side, then we've already talked about things like opening emails. But if they reply to that email, if they file it away somewhere, if they rescue something from the spam folder, if they add your contact details to the address book, there's lots of different indicators like that. And I'm sure I have missed at least one thing that you mentioned the other day, Jordan. But maybe not.
I can't remember.
Okay, cool.
From the list, yeah.
We'll run with this.
Right.
But the idea being is that obviously the email providers are looking at things slightly differently from what you might see as an Infusionsoft or a Keap user. So we've got to bear that in mind, because the engagement signs that we see aren't all there is to it. And if someone is opening and replying to your email, then that's one of the strongest signs of engagement that there is. But Infusionsoft will never see that, if that makes sense. So it's very important to encourage your audience to engage in as many different ways as possible. One thing that I don't think we've mentioned much, which we'll probably jump on to next, I guess, but I'll mention this before we move on, is we haven't talked much about whitelisting. That's something that is definitely worth looking into if you haven't already done anything with that, because whitelisting is effectively when someone fills in a web form on your site and they see a thank you page, you can give them instructions onto how to whitelist you and how to give the strongest indicator possible to their email provider that they want to receive your email. And the extreme version with something like Google Gmail is you can create a filter that will say, when I receive an email from Evan Samurin, I never want that to go to spam, always put it into the inbox. And if someone creates a rule like that with your email, that almost makes you, for that person, almost immune to Google's spam algorithm. I mean, they might still change their minds in the future, but if you can get your audience to do things like that, then you're going to do yourself a massive favor. I know that not everyone will do that, but if it's someone who really wants to receive the emails, then it's worth actually considering that. Anyway, if we move on.
And Adrian, look at that. It'll definitely help on the prospect side, but for people that have membership sites, you're selling continuity programs where you're reliant on them receiving your content, you need to bake that into your customer process. Because the number one complaint that I've had clients get is, hey, I can't get my weekly mails to my customers who are paying for it. Well, have them take that step, bake it into your process, because that's the closest thing you can do to get people to almost guarantee
exactly. Yeah, that's like you say, and it is, if someone has actually bought into some kind of online course, something like that, where the emails really matter, then yeah, absolutely do something with that. So then if engagement is so important, well, okay, so most people might not know what they don't know, and the question is, well, what should I do? So very, very nice, simple answer. You need to proactively manage your engagement, and that's written down on the next slide for you. So we'll just wait for that to pop up. There we go. Now, you might be saying, what does that mean? So we're going to start going into a little bit more detail about that. So there's three really important things to look for, which are on the next slide, and we'll go through that. And this is all about managing your contacts, because whether you're using Infusionsoft or Keap, then there are different ways where you can actually monitor your engagement. And the things that you want to look for, these are probably three of the most important behaviors and engagement levels. So the first one that I've seen, and I've worked with probably a few hundred clients and analyzed their Infusionsoft databases, and the one common thing that I've seen is that almost everyone has a mass of contacts that have never, ever, ever opened a single email, yet they still email these people week in, week out, and they're surprised that they're not opening something, and they're surprised that they've got this lower open rate, because maybe there's just this kind of deep down wish, desire, hope that maybe one day these people are going to open something. But the truth is, if someone hasn't opened something in the first 30 days, then they probably won't ever open anything, because the emails probably never made it through in the first place. So if you are still emailing contacts that have never opened anything, and they're maybe 60, 90 days old or even longer, then at that point, then it's time to say, right, are we going to actually mail these people or not? We should really consider removing them from our mailing database. And we'll talk about what to do with contacts a little bit later, because we're not actually suggesting you delete contacts. That's something to be very clear on. But then the second thing to look for is new contacts that have opted in recently within maybe the first 7 to 14 days, maybe 30 days at the outside. And we're looking for contacts that are new, that have also never opened anything. Because like I just said, if someone doesn't open something in the first few weeks, bearing in mind that they've just filled out a web form, they're probably really interested to learn more about what you've got for them. And if you can't get them to open those first few emails, then the chances are you've lost them forever. So it's worth looking for those carefully, and remembering that Infusionsoft and Keap have got some really good behavior-driven tools you can use, like Campaign Builder, where you can say, if this email hasn't been opened, or if this email hasn't been clicked on, then actually send out reminders and things like that. I've seen some cases where people literally have the web form filled out, they send out one email, and then they give up for the next month. So if that's you, then please go back and actually use this amazing tool that you've got that can give you a lot more power there.
Adrian, real quick, if I can, do you mind if I chime in real quickly? Sure. So with contacts that never engaged, we have to start looking at things and make some assumptions. And the assumption that we have to look at with new contacts that don't engage is that the assumption we make after a given time is that email went to spam and they don't check their spam folder. And especially with Google, the second worst thing that you can have happen is an email lands in spam and never gets moved out and does not get marked as spam. The worst thing you can get is a spam complaint. The second is landing in spam over and over and never happening. So it's why once you identify that you've got people that are never engaging, we can make the assumption that it's going to spam, and then we can send a breakup mail, and then if they don't engage, opt them out. So just wanted to say why that's so important.
Yeah, no, totally. And then the third important thing, and this is the one that probably most people are more aware of than the other two things, is to look for contacts that did engage at some point, but then maybe over, a month, 2 months, 3 months goes by, and they just haven't opened anything. And those are the guys, maybe that they're just no longer interested in what you've got. Maybe they've, their circumstances have changed and they're not checking that mailbox anymore. Maybe, heaven forbid, then your emails have started going into spam. But again, though the contacts that become unengaged like that, then it's worth possibly taking a bit of action to try and get them to re-engage. But again, if they're not opening your emails after, say, maybe 90 days of disengagement, then again, consider unsubscribing them, because they're going to be hurting you. Now, one of the things that you'll have heard discussed when we talk about unengaged contacts is something called a re-engagement campaign. I've got a feeling there's a couple of examples of these in the marketplace, as well as campaigns that you can use. So if you don't have a re-engagement campaign in your armory already inside your Infusionsoft or your Keap app, then it's worth putting that in and considering triggering that after maybe 90 days when a contact hasn't engaged. So the typical email that go out will just say, hey, I've noticed you've not been opening my emails for a while. It's just click here if you want to stay on my list, or something like that, and maybe a couple of others of those. And if they don't engage with any of those, at that point it's time to say, right, maybe we'll actually unsubscribe these people. But what we're also talking about when we've got all these contacts that are unengaged is, well, what do we actually do with them? because we've talked about this on one of the other calls. It's not really the best idea to delete contacts because, I think Evan's a very strong proponent of this, is that any data is useful data. Just because you're not getting to them by email doesn't mean that you might not be able to use it as, say, for creating a Facebook custom audience or maybe other ways of reaching out to them. So maybe you might unsubscribe them from your database, but you don't necessarily want to delete them. It's just making sure that you don't email them. So you could tag them with an exclusion tag saying don't mail these people anymore. You could opt them out. But deletion is probably, it's the final resort, and it's only if you know that email address is completely trash, if it's mistyped or something like that. Anything to add on that, guys? No. Wow.
I think
that.
No, I think you're
doing good, man.
Good.
Okay, perfect.
The other thing with data, just to hash on that a bit, is I think all data is good data, and you hit a lot of those. I will never press the delete button on data for a customer. I just won't do it. And there's one of the big things I've seen is when people delete data, they don't always know to exclude things like former customers. Past customers' good email addresses can go bad. And although if you're in a contact record, you cannot delete a contact that has purchase data on it. Mm-hmm. If you do it in a mass action, it will delete customer data, and you don't want to lose that. So if you do for some reason want to delete data, and really the only reason I think anyone ever really does is if they need to lessen the amount of accounts in an app, please, please, please make sure you're excluding anyone who's paid you money. You got to keep that customer data.
Yeah, that's vital. The other little cautionary tale that I'll tell as well is if you are going to bulk unsubscribe people, be very, very careful, because if you unsubscribe 2,000 people in one go, guess what? You can't automatically resubscribe them. You have to do it one contact at a time manually. And I've had one client come to me with literally no hair left because they realized they had unsubscribed 25,000 contacts that they shouldn't have unsubscribed. And it is very, very difficult to actually get those resubscribed. You can't do it in bulk. So if you're going to do mass unsubscribes, please be careful, folks, because it's a one-way, one-shot process. You can't reverse it. So be very careful. Make sure you know what you're doing. Anyway, what we're going to look at now are 3 ways that you can actually manage your engagement. And the first one, this is something that everyone can use because it's part of your Infusionsoft and your Keap applications. So there's something called automated list management. I believe it's now turned on by default if you've recently signed up. If you've had an Infusionsoft app for a longer period of time, then you might have to go in and turn this on. And that's something called automated list management. And what this will do is it actually automatically updates the email status of your contacts. Firstly, after a predetermined time that you choose, and maybe 90 days might be a good duration for this, is it will set them to a status called unengaged marketable. So it means that those contacts, you can still send emails to them, but it's telling you that for at least 90 days or whatever period you've chosen, they haven't opened anything from you, they haven't clicked a link, they haven't filled out a web form. And then the second threshold you set, that maybe 6 months, 180 days is an acceptable one, then you can change the status to unengaged non-marketable, and at that point those contacts will no longer receive any emails. So one of the questions we had on a previous call was, well, how can we actually remove unengaged contacts from campaigns? If you use the automated list management, then when they reach that unengaged non-marketable threshold, then they will automatically be removed from everything. So that's one way of doing it. It's a little bit of a kind of blunt instrument in some ways because you've only got these 2 thresholds. You've got unengaged non-marketable and then moving on from that. But what you can do there is obviously you can look out for people with those contacts, with those statuses, and you can put them through re-engagement campaigns, and you can use other strategies to try and re-engage with those people. It might be that you might use Facebook custom audiences, you might put an ad in front of them. If they're a valuable client, you might send them something in the mail. There's lots of different things you can do with that. But Infusionsoft and Keap give you the tool to do that. So certainly well worth using that, even if you do nothing else. Next way that I would really recommend, and this is kind of building on something that Jordan said the other day, is to use segmentation really wisely, because we've been talking about email newsletters going out, and Jordan's wonderfully controversial suggestion was stop sending newsletters. And what that means is you can send a lot more targeted direct communication. And again, the difference between Infusionsoft and Keap and some of the kind of less powerful marketing platforms out there is that you can set up tags and segmentation, and you can send the most relevant emails only to the people that want to receive them. So I'll often use an analogy of a pet shop owner where they might have some of their audience like dogs, some of them like cats, some of them like small animals, and unless you know someone likes dogs and cats, why would you send an email about cats to a dog lover? It just doesn't make any sense. So there's some really cool ways that you can use segmentation in your campaigns and your email broadcasts to make sure that you are only sending the emails to the people that want to receive them. And then the third thing that we've already mentioned is about the use of re-engagement campaigns and other behavior-based triggers in your campaigns to say that when things don't happen, so when they don't open your emails, when they don't click on the emails, then you can actually send some reminders, some follow-ups, some re-engagement emails to try and bring them back on board. Very, very important there. Now, I know that we've got one question come in from Mike. I'm just going to look at that now. So Jack's asked, is automated list management available in Infusionsoft? Yes, it totally is. I know that if you do a Google search for Infusionsoft automated list management, then you'll get a help page come up that explains how to do that, because I checked that last night. And for bulk emails as well, then, so this is Mike's question, does that work for bulk emails where Infusionsoft will not send to unengaged, non-marketable? Correct. If the email status on any contact inside Infusionsoft or Keap is set to unengaged, non-marketable, then the email will not be sent ever again to those contacts unless you go in and manually do something. So, as I said, it's a bit of a blunt instrument, but it works really well, and it's a very effective way of making sure that you won't email people from that perspective. So what we'll move on to now is the next slide around how you can actually check how you're doing right now. So this is a little free tool that I developed, which anyone using Infusionsoft or Keap is welcome to use. And the reason I developed it is because there was a lot of complexity out there, and I realized that people need something a little bit simpler. So because if you're measuring engagement in percentages and number of days and things like that, that isn't great. But everyone understands some kind of gauge, like you can see on the screen, where 0 is kind of bad and 100 is kind of excellent, and most people are somewhere in the middle. I've had some clients take the health check and they're down in kind of the red zone, but that's cool because then there's lots of things they can do to quite easily improve their situation. Some people in the green side then are saying, hey, I'm doing really well already. And the thing that I'll stress, to go back to some perceptions in the past that it's up to Keap and Infusionsoft to manage the deliverability, then all the clients with all the kind of low and the high health scores and the low and the high engagement, they're all using the same platform. So that just goes to show that it's how you actually manage your own engagement that makes such a difference. But if you want to take that email health check, and it really is a simple thing to do. You literally register, you log in, you connect your Infusionsoft to your Keap up, you press a button, and then you get an email health score just like you saw there. If you've got a small list, it'll take a couple of minutes. If you've got a larger list, it might take a bit longer. But you just go to emailhealthcheck.net, register. You'll get a login and password mailed back to you fairly quickly, and then that will let you take the health check. There are lots of other tools on there as well, but I don't want to talk about them today because the starting point with this is definitely the health check, because if you want to dive deeper, then there's lots of things you can do. And I've already mentioned that Evan and Jordan, myself, we can help people with that. But the starting point is if you take the health check, and that will give you a really cool, simple view of how things are looking right now. Now, the other thing that I've released as well is a tool called Deliverability Defender. And what that does is that automatically tags all of your contacts every day according to how engaged or how unengaged they are. So you can identify which of your contacts have never opened anything. You can identify which contacts have engaged in the last 7 days, the last 30 days, maybe the ones that haven't engaged in 90 days plus, so that you can very quickly and easily target your broadcast emails and check whether you want to add people to campaigns or not. And I've made that available as a 30-day free trial, so that even if you only want to use it once to clean up your list at the start, you can do that, make some decisions on what to do, and love to share that with as many people as possible. Now, anything else that Jordan, Evan, you'd like to add before we wrap up? Because again, we've kind of gone over time a bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway, if you walk away with one thing from the last 4 days, it's that deliverability comes back to you. And knowing that you are responsible to pay attention to these things. You have more control with your email deliverability than you think. If you walk away with only one thing, just know that you have to pay attention to this stuff. It isn't load my list and Keap does the rest. And once you understand that, now you start to learn, and we've talked about what do you need to look for? What do you need to know that's available? What are the pieces of the puzzle that you have to put in place? What are some of the red flags that are up that you need to get down and avoid to help improve your deliverability? Know that, and know that there is a group of us. There's not a lot of people who specialize in deliverability. There's probably about maybe a handful and a half of us that really, really know this stuff. And the cool thing for everyone listening is we're all very, very helpful, very altruistic, and we're not just here to sell services. We want to help you be successful in what you're doing. So, thank you for taking the time, and please know that now you don't have an excuse now. You got to watch this stuff, and there's lots of great information and tools that we all have to help you.
Perfect. Thanks, Evan. Jordan, any last words from you?
Yeah, just like Evan said, this stuff it's important. It's a lot more important now than it used to be. Especially if you're planning on sending out emails, regardless if your list is 100 or 100,000. It doesn't matter. Like these things all matter, and they're things that you need to have in place. It's just part of doing business, right? The world changes. The things that we do for business now are very different than things we did 10 years ago, right? And even 2 years ago, my business has completely changed almost since I acquired it about 2 years ago. So this is just one of those things you got to keep up on, and we've mentioned this a few times, but one of the things that we understand is that time is money, right? Time is your most valuable asset. And so as a business owner, this is the type of, we'll call it like putting on your big boy pants, right? And you have to make these decisions where is this something that I want to focus on myself, or is this something that it's worth me spending a few bucks to have someone that this is what they do all day, every day, go take care of that. And those are all services that I know Evan and Adrian provide. I provide as well. But getting your authentication set up, getting your list cleaning, and then also monitoring and making sure that your emails are getting delivered. Like these are all this is just part of the core, the cost of doing business now if you're doing any type of marketing like that. So feel free to reach out to any of us. We're all available to help you guys, and that's why we do this, is so that we can help you, and we can get this stuff done a lot faster than you can going and figuring it out and potentially messing it up, right? Because it's just as bad if you try and go set up a DKIM on your own and you screw it up. It's going to make things even worse. So, reach out to us, and we're more than happy to either help you or point you in the right direction, or just do the work for you. It's relatively inexpensive to get this stuff done. So.
Yeah, totally. So just a quick recap, because there's four main pillars. Check your reputation, to make sure your authentication is set up. What's your content? What's your engagement? Take care of those four things, and you're going to be doing much better than most people currently doing email marketing. And as the guys said, if we can help, then please reach out. We're active on the Facebook groups. You can tag us anytime. You can message us, and we will help any way that we can, because we genuinely want as many people to succeed with email as possible. So massive thank you, respect to guys for actually taking the time out, investing your time in watching this series. Love to share some more content in the future, so you never know, we might be back, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. Thanks very much.